Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Key and Key by the Numbers. This week's number is going to be 3 and 6, and we're working out of 21503, which is suspected child abuse and maltreatment. Now, the number 3 represents the number of reports that you do if you go on a suspected child abuse call and the child is not removed. 6 represents the number of reports that you do when you go on one of these calls and the child is removed. So let's talk about the criteria that have to be met. The 3 reports that you do if the child is not removed is the complaint report always, the DIR always, and the scam report. The suspected child abuse and maltreatment report. That's the one that gets the state registry number. So if you do not remove the child, you do a complaint report, a DIR, and the scam report. If the child is removed, you do those 3 reports, but in addition, you also do an aided report. You do the notice of temporary removal and the affidavit of service. So the cop who actually removes the child does the affidavit of service to let the court know that we informed the parent and served them with this notice that your child's been removed. So if the child's not removed, it's 3 reports: complaint, DIR, and scam report. If the child is removed, it's the additional 3 reports, which is the aided report, the notice of removal and temporary hearing, and the affidavit of service that the cop fills out, gives to the parent to let them know, hey, we removed your child and you're due at court. Now that we're talking about this procedure, let's talk about something a little more nuanced about when you are going to remove the child and something that is very possibly to be tested and confusing. So if you're a cop, you're basically not removing that child unless you meet 2 criteria. And that is that the cop has to believe that the child is in imminent danger of his life. And secondly, and most importantly, you cannot remove the child as an officer without the permission of the parent. So when you go on one of these jobs, the first thing that you always do, which is in the patrol guide, is that you notify the patrol supervisor immediately. Then you assess the situation. If the child is in imminent danger of his life and you have permission and consent from the parent, you can remove the child prior to the patrol supervisor getting there. If you do not have the consent of the parent, the patrol supervisor gets there, and they also have 3 criteria that must be met. They also must believe that the child is in imminent danger of his life. They can remove the child even over the objections of the parent, but the 3rd criteria is that it has to be, there's no time to get a court order. And so why is this very ripe to be tested? I'll tell you why. Because in the narrative of the question, they give you this whole block of details, when and where and what time you're working. And so when it comes time to remove the child as the patrol supervisor, even over the parent's objections, you have to go back to the stem of the question and you have to look at what time it is. In other words, if you're doing a 4 to 12 in the narrative of the question and it's 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday, well, then court's closed. There's no time to get a court order. So what happens if you go there and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday? Then there is time to get a court order. So the patrol supervisor would seize that scene and send somebody to go get a court order to remove the child. Okay, so that's going to be it for this week's Key by the Numbers. Make sure you follow the Key on all the social media platforms, like this video and share it with your friends. Remember that the Key always has new material coming out for you always. Make sure you sign up for the free course. And until we see you again next time, remember that preparation is the key. Peace.